Suddenly my father has called me by saying there's an emergency case outside, we need you to come and have a look at the patient. Every minute counts once the patient is unconscious. He thought the patient was seizing, but actually the patient is semi-conscious and losing consciousness. You saving a life in the future. That's the main lesson that I've learned from this situation or this case, at least to have an ambubak at home.
Our skin is the mirror of our soul. Our skin is our largest sensory organ. Our skin needs a healthy microbiome balance. This is regulated by its pH value, which protects the skin from pathogens, cold and ultraviolet rays. Sebamed protects your skin.
Hello dear friends, good evening. Welcome to today's episode of BMC Global Live Al Hilal Health World, Nothing But Lifestyle. Your health is our concern. So in each episode of this talk show, we try to bring before you an expert doctor from Al Hilal Hospital to address your various health issues. Accidents and medical emergencies happen when we least expect them. Knowing how to respond quickly and effectively can save lives before professional help arrives. To speak about first aid, we have with us Dr. Mohammad Riyad Hassan. He is a general practitioner from Al Hilal Hospital, Sitra branch. So Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you.
So thank you for being with us today. And Doctor, today our topic of discussion is first aid. So how do you describe first aid?
So actually AED is an equipment that's used by the provider or healthcare to provide or extend the patient's life. Like for example, if a patient is unconscious, we try to use the AED from the tools that you are talking about, and we can proceed by proceeding with the CPR protocol and BLS protocol assessment to try our best to save the patient's life. Okay, there is a protocol that we are health providers or everyone or anyone can get the BLS certificate who can actually do this, not only us doctors, everybody, even the ones who doesn't know, or the way they doesn't know how to do, they can actually learn the BLS course and take it. This certificate can help actually with the health providers if they saw any victim.
And doctor, what are the first steps that someone should take if they come across an accident?
Okay, let's say, for example, if an accident happens, just keep in your mind this one thing. The important thing that dangerous you are going to face and it will make a problem for you is the place of the victim and the people are around. Because when you go or rush all the way there and see the patient or the victim who crashed by the accident actually, and you need to give help, everybody is going to step in just to, you know, try to save the patient's life. But actually they don't know you are a doctor, they don't know that you can help the patient. But they do know, what they do know is just calling the ambulance and so on. So there's a specific criteria, but this is the main important thing and confusing me sometimes point about giving or saving the patient's life, because everybody will be interfering.
And doctor, how should one respond when they find a person who faints and loses consciousness?
There is a few steps that we have to follow, or everyone who has BLS assessment or certificate can follow. Like for example, let's say there is 3 main points that we have to follow. One of the points is make sure there is a consciousness, the patient or the victim is conscious or not. We can do that by tapping on the patient or calling the patient, shout out, like, are you okay? Are you with us? If the patient responded, which means he's conscious. And some of them comes with semi-conscious, some of them unconscious. There is some criteria that we have to follow. If the patient is unconscious, this is the main point. We have to check for the second point, which is follow the pulse. We can check by checking the carotid artery, putting 2 fingers all the way here, because this is almost the biggest artery in the body, and you will see it clearly that the artery is pumping. If it's not pumping, we have to move to the third point, which is seeing the chest rise or not. If the chest rise, which means the patient is breathing actually. And if he's breathing, we have to auscultate or at least check if there is a pulse and there is a breathing. We have to check, like for example, either we are going to provide the airway if the patient, for example, let's say he is conscious, okay, and he has nothing, but on the way he will be deteriorating, especially if it's an accident. Most of the cases that you are going to see actually in the hospital or outside of the hospital, most of the accidents that happens, the patients are semi-conscious or either unconscious. So if they are unconscious, we have to check for pulse. If there's a pulse, we have to provide the airway, which means an ambu bag. There is a specific, later I'll be talking about the equipments or tools. There's main things. We have to take them with us.
And doctor, what first aid would you suggest if you fear a person is having heart attack or a stroke?
You see, there is a specific symptoms or sign whether the patient is having a stroke or having a heart attack, okay? For example, to exclude heart attack, let's say a stroke patient, when you go all the way, or let's say you are walking on the street and you saw a patient is having a stroke. How do you know if it's a stroke or not? By 3 signs. there will be a difficulty in talking, there will be a facial difficulty, there will be a facial expression. It will change, which he cannot even laugh or smile. You will see the sign, it's very clear. And the other sign, you will see facial dropping, which means he cannot even smile. This is the same thing, but there will be a difficulty in talking, and there will be other signs too for the stroke. That's for the stroke. Most of them, of the patients, like let's say 50%, comes with a stroke and they are conscious. Some of them are semi-conscious and some of them are unconscious. So it depends on the patient himself. Okay, so speaking about the heart problem or heart attack, actually, when the heart attack starts, you will see the patient is unconscious. Directly, if there's an heart attack, you'll see the patient unconscious. So we have to look out for the three other points, which is the first point, as I mentioned before, check the consciousness, check the pulse, first response, then pulse, then chest rise. If there is nothing over there and the patient is unconscious, we have to activate the emergency code. This is the first thing that we have to follow. Then we have to start CPRing, and there is some protocol or criteria that we have to follow.
So doctor, now you mentioned about CPR. Can you explain about the basics of CPR, like how and when it should be applied?
Okay, so I will explain when you need to do CPR for the patient and how to do CPR, the steps for the patient. Actually, we have to do and start CPRing the patient if we didn't have these 3 points. One of the points as mentioned, if the patient is unconscious, after tapping on the patient, there is no response. This is one thing, important thing. And the other point that we have to mention is there is no pulse. If there is no pulse, we have to start CPRing. And we can confirm that by even sometimes the lungs are filled with air, but the heart is not pumping enough blood to the brain. So we are going to do CPRing in this case. But before we go into details about CPRing and how to do CPR, why I'm telling you that you have to look out for these 3 causes, because it's either maybe there's another 3 differential diagnoses. Like for example, the patient might be conscious. So hypoglycemia can be cause the patient semi-conscious and confusion as well. So you have to be careful and see other differential diagnosis too. But as the PLS, let's say anyone who has the PLS course, all the thing he has to know is one thing: if there is no response, no pulse, no chest rise, he has to immediately start CPR the patient. The way and the steps we have to follow are, first thing, we have to position our hands. Like let's say for example, if I'm right-handed and my left hand is strongest, I will be putting my left hand over my right hand and position at the center of the patient, okay, or the victim. So once we correct the center or the position of the chest of the victim, we have to strengthen our arm. Like for example, our arms should be in strength, and we have to put all of our weight on the shoulders. So anyone can even tickle us or do anything, we will fall down. We have to make sure every power in us are focused on the shoulders. Look at the shoulders. Okay, once I put my left hand on my right hand, because my left hand is strongest, because I'm going to be pushing using my both shoulders. Okay, so I'll be putting my hands on the center of the patient or the victim, and at the heel has to be on the heart, like for example on the heart's area. Okay, once we put the heel, we can push directly using our shoulders power. Otherwise, like I've seen these so many cases, in so many cases that I've seen so many health providers or other staff, they are using not their shoulders, they are using their biceps, so they get more tired. You know, the shoulders are bigger and it can give you more powerful, so you can proceed with the next things. The other point that you have to pay attention to is by pushing harder, which by all means you have to push harder and allow chest recall. How and how many times do I have to push? After pushing harder, you have to allow chest recoil. Okay, so you let the heart fill with the blood, so you can push and do another push and provide the other vitals and the brain with oxygenation. Okay, and to the other vitals or internal organs. And this is the main thing. And by all means fast, which means harder and fast, and you need to do it really quick and pay attention to this. At least 100 compression, which means 100 to 120 compression, which means 2 pressures applying per 1 second. So that's a total of 120 chest compressions. Exactly. So this is the main, at least, steps or the way you are doing the CPR, and you have to switch the compressor either if you feel tired within 1 minute, or after 2 minutes you can switch.
And doctor, in your experience, how can timely first aid save lives before professional help arrives?
So the first thing that and main point you have to keep in your mind is to call the emergency people, so the ambulance can comes directly by rushing. Otherwise the patient or the victim, you will lose it. You won't be able to save the patient by doing the CPR without the ambulance comes. So this is the first step, and every minute counts when the patient is unconscious. If we exceeded 5 to 6 minutes, this limit will be a brain damage. The patient or the victim will be having a brain damage within 6 to 5 minutes, because when you are pumping, you have to pump the blood by compressing the heart to the other organs. If the patient or the brain didn't receive enough blood, the patient will be dead within a few minutes. So every minute counts, especially the first minutes. So the people over there has to take the course. It's better for them to help the other people who doesn't know. Okay, this is the main important timing.
Okay, doctor, can you share some of your personal experience about first aid?
Speaking about personal experience, I actually after I got my license, Nahra license, there was an incident happened nearby my house, actually, which it was at 10:30 p.m. at night, and I was sitting in my room, and suddenly my father has called me by saying there's an emergency case outside, we need you to come and have a look at the patient or the victim. So I felt kind of, this situation, it's first time happening, but I have to take over and I have to be more powerful to at least take over and make a good choices. That's what makes your personal character is strong. So I rushed by changing the clothes directly and going all the way outside. So I left my head to the right side, and I've seen so many crowded patients. I've seen so many crowded people around the victim. So I went over there and I asked them the first question that everybody has to make, which is, did you call the emergency or not? Then they already told me that answer. They answered by saying they already called the ambulance. So I skipped the first step. We come to the second step. For me personally, even I'm a doctor, I cannot save the patient as long as I don't have the equipment. So I have some equipments at least can help measuring or improving or knowing some informations about the victim, which is I have only BP measurement, blood pressure measurement at home, and I have a stethoscope. I do not have another things. Okay, so I asked my father to go all the way there and bring those two equipments. When I got the equipments, I've seen the patient while he actually getting the equipments. I'm seeing the patient. The patient actually was laying flat on the ground, and there was blunt trauma that I took the history from the people around, which is actually the kids who gave me the histories, because they have seen everything, which is a guy who came directly and crashed him, and he's been flipping on the ground until I've seen so many there was so many glasses, actually pieces on the street. But the main point was, like, the hardest thing that I faced at that time is the people around. Whenever I keep telling them, make at least some air, let some air, let the patient take some air, and they keep coming. When I tell them to do that, they keep coming. So this is the main issue was that I faced. This is one thing. Second thing, the patient was laying flat. Actually, he was semi-conscious. So I tried to make him conscious. Okay, I tried my best to keep him conscious, but somehow he didn't, at the end, like lose the consciousness. Anyways, once I got the equipment, I attached the BP measurement to the victim, and I used my stethoscope to listen to the lungs, because he was semi-conscious, and there was a pulse, and there was a chest rise. So I didn't have, sadly, the ambu bag, which means giving airway to the patient. That's the main thing, that's the main lesson that I've learned from this situation or this case, at least to have an ambu bag at home or wherever I go, because this thing can happen everywhere and nobody knows, because accidents mostly happens every day. Anyways, when I attached the BP, which is blood measurement pressure, and the pressure was normal, 120/80, and the normal is 100 to 120/60 to 80. And so I was comfortable at that time, at least, because there was some pressure and there was a pulse and there was a chest rise, but he seems like semi-conscious, and I tried my best to keep him conscious so we don't lose him. And the other main point, which is I faced, as I told you, the crowded people around. So the crowded patient, one of them I still remember, he interfered, okay, and he thought the patient was seizing, but actually the patient is semi-conscious and losing conscious. So I told him at that time, just leave the patient, because he left the patient on the left side, because whenever any victim, let's say in any seizure case, we left the patient or the victim on the left side, okay? He thought he was seizing, so he knew this as a seizure case, but actually it was an accident, because when I inspected at the beginning the chest, there was a blunt trauma. There's two types of trauma. One of them, when you crash someone, you make a blunt, like pushing, like the power comes from outside without doing internal damage from outside by, like, you know, hard hit, for example. And the other type of trauma, there is a stab, like stabbing someone with a knife. There's two types of trauma. But luckily, at that time, when I took the blood pressure for the patient the first time, it was normal. And when I escorted the patient, there was breathing. He was breathing, and there was signs of crackling down there at the bottom of the lungs. It's like a balloon, and the balloon, when you breathe in it, it grows bigger. But he cannot breathe, so the heart been using the whole time the air that filled by the lungs. Okay, so gradually it decreases by the time goes, because, you know, like when you leave the balloon or small air outside, the air comes from outside and the balloon gets smaller. So after a few minutes, after 5 to 10 minutes actually, the patient's been deteriorating and the blood pressure was too high. I checked it again and it was 185/100 something. I don't remember actually, but when I auscultate for the second time, there was nothing. There was crackling here only on the atypical, which means the patient is going to lose consciousness. He already losing consciousness, and luckily he wasn't unconscious at that time. Anyways, I told them recall the ambulance and make the way on the way, so the ambulance can come all the way directly, because I had so many problems with the people around, especially the people who comes and sees the patients and taking selfie. Imagine the kids are taking selfie to the victim. It's not correct or a good way, right? So this is one more thing, especially the cars. On the street, there was people comes with the cars. When they come and see there is an accident or something, or crowd of people around the victim, they are giving me trouble, because I want the ambulance at least to make a way to come all the way directly so we can take the patient or the victim inside the car. So those people were kind of struggling. Anyways, I told the other people to let the other cars move on forward. And once the ambulance arrived, the guy over there came down, had the provider, and checked his eyes, and he was kind of conscious, actually, semi-conscious, but he's deteriorating still. So we took the patient directly out the victim, shift him inside the car, attached the vitals, and blood pressure somehow was high. There was a pulse, but I told him to take him to the Salmania directly. But before he goes, I took a quiet history about the patient. Okay, so I was kind of happy, half happy, because I at least help a patient. It's not about fame or anything. It's about, I'm looking at the patient from this side, which means helping, saving life for the patient, not looking for fame. We don't look for fame, and it's not good for us. It's better to stay in the dark Anyways, this is one thing. And the other thing that at that time I discovered, which we are facing a problem in our society, especially with those kids. When I took the history, his brothers, the victim's brothers, were over there. And the guy who crashed him, the kids knows him, but after a while, 5 to 10 minutes, he came directly, and he was, imagine that, a kid, 14 years old, riding a motorcycle bike so fast, driving every day, and without a license, and the motorcycle bike is not registered. So he's already broke the rules. So at least we need in our society to do some rules so we can strict those people, you know, because the important and struggle points that we are facing nowadays, those people aging from 12 to 20, because, you know, they are very ridiculously actually annoying sometimes, and we have to make our way or our point, or think of a point to make them at least follow the rules. This is one thing. Then they went at least to the Salmania medical complex, and on the way I told, before the ambulance goes, I told the health provider that the patient is deteriorating and there is no much that air. After a few days, I visited the victim's house, and the victim told me that they actually shocked him on the way to the Salmania. So I was happy that the patient survived, but we need in the future to avoid those struggles and those rocks to knock them all the way away. This is the personal experience that happened after a few days from me getting the license.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience, doctor. And what are the essential items we should have in the first aid kit at home?
There is so many things, but there is only, I will mention 3 things, because there is a gauze, there is antiseptic solutions, there is so many things, other things. But the main 3 important equipments that we have to do is, or get, firstly, the ambu bag, which is provide the airway to the patient. Second thing, we have to get the AED. There's only at least 2 things that we have to provide for the patient, and we have to get in our kit at least 2. There is some other things that we have, I can mention them, like a gauze and antiseptic things, and these are secondary things. But the primary things is ambu bag, because we need to give the patient oxygenation, so the patient can, because if he's unconscious, we have to give an air for the patient so the lungs can fill with air, and do a CPR by oxygenating the other vitals and the brain and organs. This is one thing. And the second thing, we have to get at least the AED, which means it's an electrical shock, like a machine, small machine that we have to carry with us and attaching to the patient directly. And the AED actually can restore the heart rhythm by giving a shock to the patient directly. Only those 2 things, at least the most important, that we have to take on.
And doctor, what is the one thing you want everyone to know about first aid?
The main thing, actually, I want all other people to kindly requesting all other people who knows or doesn't know about the BLS, and get the BLS assessment and certificate, so whenever anything happens, they are being prepared, like we are preparing nowadays, those people to provide healthcare or saving the patient life. Imagine saving a patient life. it's very good for the other people, because instead of losing the patient, so many people, and imagine his family will be thanking you and doing everything for you, and they will, like, you will own a favor regarding that, and they feel like you did something very powerful and something good for them. And we don't actually want this to happen to any of our family members, so we have to avoid that. And everybody, everyone can take this course, whether his education. Me as a doctor, I have to take the BLS and I have to renew it. Actually, mine is renewed already. But speaking about this, everybody has to take it. It's not about doctor thing. It's about you saving a life in the future. So we have to prepare. That's my advice to the society and to everybody.
And finally, doctor, what do you have to say about Al Hilal Healthcare Service?
Al Hilal Healthcare Service. Okay, Al Hilal, they are very good actually. They are very intelligent, and the hospital, they have mainly right now 10 branches, and their reputation is very good in Bahrain and publicly, and they have multiple specialties as well. And moreover, they are going to open the 11th branch in the future soon, but I don't know about the details. That's what they told me, but hopefully soon, and they open more branches so across Bahrain, because they are providing so many health for the patients.
Inshallah. So thank you, doctor. Thank you for joining us and giving us a lot of valuable information about first year. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me, and have a good day everybody, and good luck.
So viewers, I hope this episode on first aid was helpful. For more informative episodes, tune into BMC Global Live Al Hilal Health World every Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Till we meet again in next episode with a new doctor and a new topic, this is Jasila Mujib signing off. Good night.
Our skin is the mirror of our soul. Our skin is our largest sensory organ. Our skin needs a healthy microbiome balance. This is regulated by its pH value, which protects the skin from pathogens, cold and ultraviolet rays. Sebamed protects your skin.